Hello, every Tuesday. We are going to transition our conversation or our topic into ways to optimize gut health. And it's actually somewhat of a continuation of our previous topic 2 weeks ago, where I talked about the gut brain axis. And so now we're going to talk about some of the common things that people make with gut health. It's such a big problem that affects a lot of people. And this is actually going to be a series. There's a number of things that affect gut health, and I am going to talk about just one of them today. So before I talk about gut health, I always like to start out with a case. And this one is, Yesenia, and she's a 46-year-old female who had a lot of GI symptoms: abdominal distension, belching, bloating with and during and after meals. She even had GERD, alternating stools. So sometimes she had suffered from constipation, other times it was loose, or sometimes she had normal bowel movements. And then she oftentimes saw undigested food in her stool. She used a lot of NSAIDs for pelvic cramping. This was something that she used during her menses. She also has quite an antibiotic history, use of antibiotics, steroids in the past, even used PPIs, and she was on a proton pump inhibitor for a long time. And her lifestyle factors, and this is one of the things that in terms of human health optimization, we have to look at all of the things that are potentially triggering any dysfunction in a body. And so one of the things that I look at is a person's lifestyle, and not just lifestyle, but their medications that they're taking, because all of these things play a role in our health. And so one thing that was interesting about Yesenia is that she snacked all day. She drank very little water, had a low fiber diet. She drank with her meals, and often practiced eating late at night. And she often stressed a lot because she had a very, very busy job that just kept her extremely stressed. And so if we keep in mind her significant gastrointestinal symptoms, we look at what she's taken, her medications, we look at her lifestyle. These are all things that are tying into her gut health. And we talked about 2 weeks ago the gut brain axis, and how what happens in our digestive tract can influence our mood and our behavior. Another important aspect of gut health and just overall health is to really hone in on what we're eating. And I talk about this a lot, that nutrition is the cornerstone to our health. And we have to really keep in mind what we're eating and how foods affect our physiology. So one thing here with Yesenia, she often ate waffles or bagels in the morning with peanut butter, and had a cup of coffee. She snacked with yogurt and granola, spaghetti noodles and garlic toast with olive oil for lunch. Another snack, again, yogurt and granola. And for dinner, it was baked potatoes with sour cream, green onions, and chives. So her diet, just, I can see why she didn't have a lot of fiber, things that would actually help with GI health. So one of the things that I did for her, because her symptoms were telling me there's a lot of GI symptoms here. And so I had Yesenia complete a comprehensive stool analysis in parasitology. And one of the things I'm able to see on a comprehensive stool analysis is if there is dysbiosis. Okay, so there's a lot of symptoms that she had: the bloating with meals, and constipation, and loose stools, alternating. So there's possibly something going on with the microbiome, and I wanted to check for that. And so one of the things that I saw on Yesenia's stool report was that she didn't have any growth of the very important bacterial species of the gastrointestinal tract. in those particular bacteria, bifidobacterium or lactobacillus species. And she was also low on Akkermansia, which these bacteria play a very important role in helping to establish and maintain a very tight gut barrier. And so that's one of the important things with gut health, is to maintain a proper and healthy gut barrier. So she didn't have those bacteria. She also had reduced butyrate concentrations or levels of short chain fatty acids. And if you recall, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the role that short chain fatty acids play in the gastrointestinal tract, but also systemically how short chain fatty acids, these bacterial metabolites, are able to modulate the immune system and also play a role in maintaining not only gut barrier function, but blood-brain barrier as well. And one other thing that the stool test was able to pick up was that she had quite a number of Candida species and potentially pathogenic bacteria. So there was a lot going on in her gastrointestinal tract, and there was some degree of inflammation as well. There were some inflammation markers picked up. And so basically her digestive system was at war with her, and she wasn't feeling well because of all of what was going on. In primary care, I would say gastrointestinal problems or concerns are a big issue, and it's a major primary care problem. In fact, I would say 85% of the patients I see have GI problems. Digestive diseases affect 60 million to 70 million people. This is a major problem. And so this is oftentimes what most providers are seeing. So in the context of what people are doing, some of the common things that people do that affect their gastrointestinal health, we can start out with fiber. Not many people eat the amount of fiber that they're supposed to eat. On average, in the American diet, Americans are eating 10 to 15 grams of fiber per day. And that's just not enough to help the body do what it needs to do. So some of the biological roles of fiber plays a very important role in our physiology. And some of in terms of gut health, it plays a role in gut motility, so helping to decrease transit time and keep contents moving throughout the gastrointestinal tract. And it's also diluting carcinogens. So keep in mind that fecal material is waste material and it needs to be eliminated. So inside our fecal content, there are fecal carcinogens that need to be eliminated. And so fiber helps to ensure that there's a healthy transit of anything that the body needs to eliminate is found in the stool. In fact, when you're detoxifying, the blood filters goes through the liver, and there's a lot of detoxification that happens in the liver. After phase 2 detox in the liver, it goes into the fecal material and the urine and sweat for elimination. So we want to appreciate that fiber will help to facilitate the removal of any carcinogens or any kind of toxic chemicals that the body's trying to eliminate. The other important role fiber plays is that it helps to facilitate the growth of important bacterial species in the gastrointestinal tract that play a very important role in modulating our immune system. In fact, it's a very important role. I mean, the fiber serves as substrates for the bacteria. And when they ferment on these fiber substrates, they're able to produce the short chain fatty acids. And so you're helping to establish a healthy microbial community of diversified bacteria. And in turn, they produce these short chain fatty acids that can help to modulate the immune system and the central nervous system via the vagus nerve. Several mechanisms by which short chain fatty acids metabolites from the bacteria are able to help with the body at large. But one of the important ways that it's able to do that is by having a healthy amount of fiber coming in. And this is particularly soluble fiber that the bacteria are able to ferment. Soluble fiber, there are different types of fibers, and they play a role in helping with hormone regulation, the removal of toxic estrogens. Again, that goes back to facilitating the removal of toxins out of the body via fiber. And it binds up these toxic hormones that need to be eliminated. And so fiber plays a really important role and we just don't get enough of it. It also helps with cholesterol metabolism, blood sugar balancing. So it has such wide impacts on the system. So this is a schematic of the dietary fiber, the gut microbiota fermenting on the fiber, and is producing short chain fatty acids. And the colonocytes are able to take up these short chain fatty acids and utilize them. But keep in mind that in order for the bacteria to be able to do this requires the availability of fiber, and people are just not getting that on a Western diet, because the Western diet tends to be high in fat and sugar and low in fiber and antioxidants. So this is just not the type of nutrition that is going to facilitate the growth of the microbiome. And this was the type of nutrition that Yesenia was eating. And most of the patients that I see are eating a Western type diet, or they think they're eating a healthy diet, but it's not. It just doesn't give the amount of fiber that's going to help to build and establish a healthy gut microbiota. And so when the colonocytes uptake the short chain fatty acids, they're able to exert their effects either via the central nervous system, via the vagus nerve, or they're able to enter the circulation and play a role in cardiovascular health and et cetera, and the immune system. So this was interesting. In this study, they were actually looking at mice that had a fiber-free diet. And one of the things that was really interesting is that a fiber-free diet actually destroyed the mucus layer. So one of the important aspects of the gut barrier is this healthy layer of mucus. And by having the microbiome present, they're able to facilitate and encourage the enterocytes to produce mucus, but they're only able to do that by having the presence of fiber. So you kind of lose that gut integrity, that barrier function, when you do not have a diet that's rich in fiber. So it allows for pathogenic bacteria and other things to destroy the integrity of the gut barrier. And so you have a disruption in the tight junctions. And so there's this elaborate system that helps to keep things that are not supposed to enter the bloodstream, keep them out. But fiber facilitates that process via the microbiome and its production of these short chain fatty acids, being able to encourage the enterocytes to produce this mucus. And so it's that nice, healthy mucus layer that is only really created by having the presence of fiber and a healthy microbiota, gut microbiota. So this is a schematic showing a healthy colon. You have that nice mucus layer, and in patients with IBD, they tend to have a disrupted mucus layer. And one other thing that's important to note is that there's a lot of imbalance in the microbiome, so gut microbiome. So they tend to have more dysbiotic gut flora, and that disrupts the gut integrity, and that's problematic for these individuals. So the Western diet, high in fat, low in fiber, you could see there's a disruption in those tight junctions, those proteins that help to establish a healthy gut barrier. And when you have any disruption there, then you start to have things from the lumen, the gut lumen, now able to cross over into the circulation. So in some cases, LPS can get through this gut barrier because of the tight junctions are no longer there. And they are able to translocate, and these are bacterial products, and they're able to translocate into circulation and exert their effects. And so they tend to be more pro-inflammatory. And so all because of this tight junction, the tight junction gut barrier is just, it's not there anymore. So if you have a diet that is high in fiber, you're able to produce the short chain fatty acids that are able to maintain that gut barrier function, and by upregulating the tight junctions and facilitating the production of that mucus layer. So that is really important. And that was something that I think was happening with Yesenia, because her diet just did not facilitate the acquisition of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, which are the butyrate producing bacteria. And butyrate is one of those the most important short chain fatty acid for the colonocytes, because it serves as a fuel source. So it's really important to have diet or fiber in the diet to help modulate the immune system, and to also facilitate and support and maintain a healthy gut barrier. So fiber helps with diluting fecal carcinogens and decreasing transit time. And if you're able to do that, then you're reducing the contact that carcinogens have, with the colonocytes. And so flaxseed consumption is shown to have beneficial effects on colon physiology, and being able to reduce colorectal cancer risk and occurrence. So, and the reason why is because, again, if you are increasing the amount of contact those colonocytes have with fecal carcinogens, then that becomes a very, it's not favorable for the colonocytes, and they undergo inflammation, and depending on a person's genetic vulnerabilities, that might just be enough to initiate a colorectal cancer. So for that reason, you want to facilitate the removal of fecal material out of the colon. I worked at the morgue. I did an autopsy, and I recall when I opened the abdominal cavity, the pathologist and myself took out the gastrointestinal the colon of this individual, and he was severely constipated. I mean, he was so constipated, his bowels were all twisted. And I recall the pathologist telling me, wow, this guy must have been in so much pain because his bowels were so impacted with stool. So everyone, make sure you're getting enough fiber in the diet, and you're drinking adequate water to help facilitate the removal of any fecal material. So bowel transit is a very simple way to really assess how well food is traveling through the gastrointestinal tract. And optimally, we want it to be anywhere between 12 and 24 hours in typical places like Africa and Asia, where fiber is a large part of a large part of the diet. They tend to have healthy transit times. And so anything 48 hours is suboptimal colon health. If you have anything less than 12 hours, that's too rapid, and you're actually not really absorbing your nutrients. So you really want to stay within that 12 to 24 hours of having a healthy elimination. So the Bristol stool chart is something that I use with my patients to get an idea of how their bodies the colon is eliminating fecal material. And ideally, you want the stool to look like a type 3 or 4. Anything, less than type 3, you tend to be more constipating, and anything greater than 4 tends to be more loose. So you're really not absorbing anything. So take a look at your stool and see what kind of texture your stool is looking like. And if it's a type 4, nice and smooth and easy to pass, that's great. And you don't want to see any undigested food. And in her case, Yesenia had undigested food, so it showed up in her stool. So some things to aim for. So if you want to increase fiber slowly over time, aim to get above 30 grams per day if you're an adult. And a very easy way of doing this is to consume plant-based smoothies. You can easily get the fiber in the smoothie form, salads, legumes. Fiber comes in different forms, and soluble fiber. You want both because they serve different purposes in the body. And the soluble fiber is the type of fiber that is fermentable, that helps with establishing a healthy gut microbiota. You want to aim for 3 to 13 servings per day and have a different variety, eat at least 5 different colors per meal so that you can increase your phytonutrient density. And if you are able to achieve 30 different vegetables per week so that you can help to establish a more diversified microbiome. And there are different types of, you could have a prebiotic food. These will help serve as a fuel source for the gut microbiome. And you can also, if you have some issues with food, you can take fiber. There are commercial fiber supplements, although I still recommend getting fiber in the diet. In some cases, you might want to supplement because there's certain types of fiber that feed different types of bacteria. But in general, you do have other options to get fiber because it is made in commercial products as well. And so this is a smoothie. I have this as a free download for people. It has the flax seeds and it has fibers. It's a lot of fiber in this that will help feed the microbiome. And aside from the microbiome, it just has other beneficial properties that support other cell processes. So it helps with, it's anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. It's also immunoprotective. So you can consider this or any kind of smoothie, plant-based smoothie that's low in sugar. You can consider incorporating the nuts and seeds into the diet that will help to establish a healthy microbiome. And some of the polyphenols inside the blueberries or all the berries are also types of substrates that lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, they prefer that to help produce the short chain fatty acids. So keep in mind that berries are also a fuel source for the gut microbiota. And here's another smoothie that is, you want to emphasize color. You want to make sure that you're getting a different array of phytochemicals because every phytochemical and every food that has a different color have different bioflavonoid concentrations and phytochemicals that also facilitate the growth and establishment of the gut microbiota. And of course, it's going to help facilitate gut motility. So this is oftentimes a mistake that people make. They're just not eating the foods that are going to help facilitate the removal of fecal material from the diet and also feed the gut microbiome. And if you feed the microbiome the nutrition that the bacteria require, then they're able in turn to produce the short chain fatty acids that are necessary to maintain that gut barrier function and keep the, help the immune system and prevent any kind of inflammatory process from happening. Of that amount, you want to make sure that you're getting a healthy amount of soluble fiber. You want to aim for 9 to 13 servings per day of a variety of types of vegetables and 30 different vegetables per week. And that's the amount that will create a very, very well diverse community of bacteria. And a very simple way of starting this out, if you're not used to high dense nutrition, start out with a vegetable smoothie in the morning. Everyone does smoothies. Don't go to Jamba Juice. Create your own smoothie at home. It's very simple, and it's a very simple way to introduce healthy nutrition in a diet. And then you want to keep in mind that when you're taking in fiber, also titrate slowly. If you're not used to eating a lot of fiber, make sure you're well hydrated, and keep in mind the function of fiber. So one of the things that I talked about on my very first presentation is we have to redefine food. We have to keep in mind that everything that we put into our system needs to help drive our physiology in the right direction. And fiber will definitely do that. So the next time you eat white bread, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead. And so that's just not going to feed the microbiome. Okay. And so you want to make sure that whatever you consume, it has adequate fiber, and keep in mind the role that fiber plays in the body. It helps to dilute carcinogens, and it helps to bulk up our stool and decrease transit time and keep things moving through the gastrointestinal tract, feeding the microbiome. All of these things are really important for bowel health. And so that's where Yesenia was. She was not getting adequate fiber, and she certainly was not getting consuming 30 different vegetables per week, and not hitting the mark with 9 to 13 servings per day. So it kind of made sense that she didn't have those lactobacillus and bifidobacteria species inside her microbiome. They just didn't grow. They did not grow. They were not on cell culture. They just were not picked up. So this is something to keep in mind. The diet did significantly impact her gut microbiota. So keep in mind your nutrition and fiber is a very, very